Hey, it's Nicole Kellerman-Worth, CEO of WildlyAlive.com, where we help women get on the same team as their bodies so they can feel and look their best. When a woman realizes how badass her body is, she feels alive and is no longer afraid to create the life she's always wanted. I know this to be true because it's happened to me and thousands of our clients. Welcome to the journey of getting on the same team as your body. Hello, sisters. Okay, I'm so excited because today we are featuring a Wildly Alive mentor. If you don't know what a Wildly Alive mentor is, within the Wildly Alive Mastery program, after you graduate, you have the opportunity to mentor sisters and to help them on their Wildly Alive journey. And so Nicki here is our Wildly Alive mentor, and she is so passionate about Wildly Alive, loves Wildly Alive, just wants to see it grow and evolve. She is our number one fan for sure. It's really, really amazing. And, when we talked about this particular topic with the movement pillar, Nicki was the first one to raise her hand because she's had such a crazy experience with exercise. And she'll tell you a little bit more about that. And I think many of you can relate to the extremes that she has felt when it comes to exercise, and now kind of how she's found some balance in all of that. So welcome, Nicki. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your history with movement and exercise before Wildly Alive, and a little bit about how it looks now?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a very eclectic relationship with movement. And I'm going to try to sum this up as brief as I possibly can because I could make it very long, but today. Growing up, I was very sick. I have a disease called primary ciliary dyskinesia, and it is a lung disease, to keep it short. And because doctors didn't really know what to do with me and the extent of how sick I was, their solution, instead of encouraging me to build my lungs, was they told me not to move at all, at all. I wasn't allowed to go outside for recess. I wasn't allowed to participate in gym. I wasn't required any gym credits in high school, no working out, no movement. When I was 15, though, I got into that bit of a rebellious phase. I mean, a lot of kids rebel by ditching class. I rebelled by going for runs. But because I was so hungry for it and I didn't feel beautiful. A lot of teenagers don't. And I didn't have the, movie teenager body. And so I felt like I needed to really push that. And so I'd run until I'd end up sick on the side of the road, and an ambulance would pick me up. And then I'd get in trouble for it. And because my doctors and my parents would be like, Nicki, you're not supposed to be moving. But that wasn't, I wanted to be normal. I ended up joining the swim team, but even that was a fight. And I swam for 3 out of the 4 years that I was in high school. And that was me going to my doctors and being like, no, I'm doing this, whether you give me permission or not. I'll forge your names. I want to swim. So they finally agreed under monitoring and talking to the coaches. And then from there, I would get hospitalized quite frequently. And even in the hospitals, they would catch me. They would catch me doing sit-ups in my hospital room and be like, Nicki, what are you doing? But it's just what I wanted. I wanted more.
Well, the thing that's interesting to really highlight about Nicki's story, because it's actually the opposite of what happens with high school athletes and things like that, and it's important to really highlight this, because if you have a history of being in athletics a lot of your life, is you may have swung to the other side, right? And so Nicki was told that she couldn't work out. So then she became a rebel and she started working out like a freak to the point where she was doing push-ups in the hospital bed or push-ups and crunches. And then, like again, kids who are raised and maybe in that older mentality, athletic background was no pain, no gain, right? Like, and very like two-a-days and things like that. What I have found with my clients and with the Wildly Alive sisters is that for those women, they've actually swung to the other side and said, I'm not exercising at all because I was forced, like they're rebels coming out and saying, I'm not going to exercise at all. Right. And so what's interesting to highlight here is that there is a lack of balance, and the mind wants to, like, the inner rebel is very real. And so wherever your reality falls, if maybe it falls closer to Nicki's or closer to the athletic side of it, is really the key here is recognizing how the mind works around exercise and how eventually that inner rebel comes out and it can create this very extreme swing or starting and stopping. And the goal here, and that's what we're going to be talking about, is the balance, finding a way to have a healthy relationship with exercise. So the pendulum isn't swinging so far, because your pendulum was definitely swinging.
And it only got worse. It's so interesting. That's so good. That's such good information. So after high school, I don't know if it's because I was 18, but I rebelled even harder and I started working out 3 times a day, 6 days a week, to the point where I had no life. And I mean, I was swimming in the mornings. I was taking dance lessons. I even took some weightlifting classes in college. And then I also would go to the gym for 2 to 3 hours at night. I was all about movement. And when I was 21, I was in therapy and I was talking to my therapist and I was crying to her and I was like, I don't have any friends. And she was like, well, what do you do all day? And I told her and she was like, you need to start going out with people. And so then I swung to the other direction and I partied and I stopped working out entirely and I gained a lot of weight.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't tell you how much because I wasn't getting on a scale until my 20s. So I don't even know how much I gained or what I weighed then. But then when I was 24-ish, I wanted to work out again. So between 24 and 28, I would go through these extremes of doing a hardcore workout diet. I don't know what else to call it because it wasn't like I was not eating well or eating bad. I didn't care about the food. I was focused on working out and I would run every day for like a month straight, like 6 miles if I could. Like it was crazy. And then I'd burn out and I would do nothing. And then I'd gain weight back and I'd be depressed. And so
I think everyone can totally relate to this story on some level or another, where it's just like from one extreme to the next, and like this cycle just keeps repeating itself. So tell us what movement and exercise is like for you now that you're through Wildly Alive and also teaching stuff yourself.
I love Wildly Alive, which you mentioned, but I do. I now have a consistent relationship. It's just a part of my life. It's a part of my existence. It's easy and it's something that I enjoy. I really grew into movement regularly, I would say in this last year and a half. And it started with the power of a 10 and just 10 minutes counts. It all counts. Like every step you take counts. And if you do that for 10 minutes, it's going to get you through that movement piece. And now I'm to the point where I don't even count, like I don't even track the 10 minutes. I don't need that anymore. It's more, I wake up and I'm like, okay, if I don't feel like moving that day, I know that going to the bathroom, taking those 10 steps to the bathroom, that counts towards something. If I feel like moving that day and I go for a run, but I don't do the 3 miles that I want to do, I know that 1.5 miles makes a difference and counts not just for the way my body looks, but for my health overall. And I no longer feel like it's not going to matter if I get sick again, that all my work is undone. Because that was something that came up for me.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't healthy for you to not be moving at all. And it wasn't healthy for you to be working out 3 times in a day, right? It's like, so, and it's, again, like, even though maybe you had, during the 3 times a day phase of your life, you had lost a lot of weight and you looked really good, the question to always ask ourselves is, in a phase of my life when I looked really good, was I treating my body the best I could? Was I treating my body the worst? Because I know for me, I remember when I was the most fit, sure, I looked good in a picture. But the truth was, behind the curtain, I did not feel so great. I was stressed out. Right. And wasn't nice to myself because nothing's ever good enough at that point. Right. There's no amount of working out that really feels like you're satisfied with it. You could always do more. Right. So, like, bringing it back to your health, like that pendulum swinging.
Well, I consider myself now that I move every single day in some form or another, even if it's not a huge workout or a HIIT workout. I think that's what they call them, those harder workouts. Even if it's not that, I'm moving my body in some form or another every single day. And I've noticed that I feel good. And that's what it's important to me, is that I feel good. I feel confident. And I know that these movements that I'm doing are going to help me have the best life that I can. I know if I were to go for a hike tomorrow, I'd be able to do it because I'm moving every single day, even though I'm not doing a 6-mile hike every day.
So what do you think when you first started, like, learning about the power of 10 and making everything count? What do you think your biggest, like, mindset obstacle was? Because I could see you moving and going on a walk or whatever, and your mind could come in very easily and be like, you need to do more. That doesn't count. That type of stuff. Like, how did you kind of navigate that?
That was definitely the biggest obstacle, especially because I can be a bit competitive with myself, not with other people, but with myself. And I really took on that Wildly Alive philosophy of placing your hand on your heart and speaking to your inner child or Helga, depending on what voice is talking to me at that moment, and reminding them that they are safe, or, scurry off because we don't need your words. Really just talking to that person, and then feeling in my body whether or not I wanted more or if this was enough. And then to my body after calming down that inner voice. Because for me, that inner voice would be too loud for me to hear anything else.
Right. So, okay, Nicki brought up a really, really good tool within Wildly Alive. So we talk about the chatter in the mind. We can personify her and call her Helga, and how oftentimes there are 2 different moods of Helga, or like flavors of Helga, if we really categorize them. There is scared Helga, and then there is like bully Helga. More often than not, it's not bully Helga, even though in the personal development world, it's very common for them to just say, tell that voice in your mind to go screw off and blah, blah, blah. But when we think about this, when we think about moving and exercise, and how so much of our value can be tied to the physical, what our body physically looks like, which again, that's a whole thing that we kind of uncover within the Unstoppable class in Wildly Alive Mastery, is when you really root down to it, there may be a scared Helga, and that's who she's connecting with more than anything. Now, could bully Helga, I could see if you have an athletic background and maybe you had a really tough coach who was really masculine and in your face and like kind of boot campy. I could see how maybe it's a little bit of bully Helga a little bit, which in that case would just be like, I'm not listening to you. You know, it's a little bit more of an aggressive, assertive, I guess is a better way to say it, assertive kind of energy that you have towards that voice. But most women have been told that our value is in how we look. And so to make ourselves look better, we work out. And so this is like the false narrative that we're all unconsciously living by. And so when we root it down, it could be scared Helga, scared that she's not going to be accepted. She's not going to be loved by society, by her mother, by her partner, by her friends, right? If she doesn't look a certain way, then she is not valued. And really, like, that is, you know, what Nicki is touching on is if that voice started to get loud, she would connect with her body and speak to that voice. If it's either scared Helga and saying she's safe, that's what she was alluding to. You're safe. You're okay. You are loved. Even no matter what size body you have, you are loved. You are accepted. Or yes, I guess occasionally it could be bully Helga.
Yeah. For me, I always start with, I call her little Nicki, the one that's scared. And I always start with her because I imagine talking to a child the way that you would if you were to just yell at them and say, knock it off when they're just looking for love, that can do more damage. And so I'd rather go gentle to start with. And that usually is the case, usually. But every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do say, like, that's a really good point. It's typically really easy for us to have that more assertive, go away. I don't want to listen to you. The softening and the speaking to the little girl who is afraid that she won't be accepted unless she works out harder and changes her body. It's harder for us, especially those of you who may have kind of like were raised a little in the hard knocks. You had to just be tough. You had to like get through, you know, like that's what I have found within clients is, you know, like the softening approach is way more uncomfortable. It's a lot easier to like just be a bitch, you know, and that was me for a really long time. This is very easy MO for me. But like the softening and the connecting and the nurturing, even though it was so uncomfortable, it was actually the most transformative in the moment.
And that was my experience with it as well. I remember the first time I talked to little Nicki, I just started sobbing, like, because I didn't know what to do with it, because I was so used to force. And in this case, don't move at all. Stay as stationary as you possibly can, force, to you have to move or you're going to be, and I mean, this is the way I spoke to myself, a fat cow for the rest of your life. Nobody will ever love you. But it was always little Nicki being scared. She was scared of getting sick. She was scared of not being accepted and loved. It was always little Nicki.
This is so good.
Yeah, I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah, when you first started speaking to her.
Yeah, it changed everything for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is like a really good awakening activity for everyone listening. If you really want to take some action around this particular podcast, is thinking about next time that you start to move your body and the chatter starts to say, you need to go harder. You need to be sweating. It needs to be longer. This doesn't count, right? And you're really maybe trying to anchor in the power of 10 and that everything counts. Can make everything count. It's movement. It's not exercise. You're moving your body. Is put your hand on your body and connect with the little girl. And you could just ask her, like, what's up? What are you so afraid of? Like, what's the fear here if you actually let this 10-minute walk count? What's the fear? What's really underneath it?
Yeah. I think that's going to make a big difference for a lot of people. I think there's going to be a lot of people running down the street crying with their hands on their hearts.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Crying in a good way, like healing tears. Yeah, for sure. So before we go, I would love for you to just share with the listeners, why did you decide to jump into mentorship and like the leadership position as you graduated Wildly Alive Mastery?
Okay. I believe so strongly in the mission of Wildly Alive. Uh, and I believe that what we teach in Wildly Alive can change the world and women's perspective on diet culture in a way that doesn't exist right now. And there's people out there touching on it, but nobody quite has it. And it's such a graceful, beautiful, but still structured environment. And what I've always wanted from my life was to make a difference and to help people and to commit to something that I fully believed in. And when you opened it up to mentors, there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to see it grow and to help women become their best selves. When people ask me what I'm doing for Wildly Alive, I say I'm helping women become their best selves, grow into their best selves, because it's already there. It's already there. They just are having trouble reaching it in such a beautiful, healthy, safe, beyond, that's a big word for me, safe. I've said it a lot tonight, way. And that's what Wildly Alive offers. It's a safe, loving, challenging environment.
Yeah.
You definitely need to put the work in. If it's not, all sunshine and daisies, I've definitely put the work in, and so have all the other sisters that are in it, but it's worth it.
Yeah, working through those blocks, the blocks that are keeping you from
Yeah.
being in alignment with your true self. And
Where my life was before Wildly Alive and where it is today, I mean, that alone is a testament to how great it is.
yeah, I know. We're so
Sorry
lucky
for
to have
another
you.
day.
We're so lucky to have Nicki. She is awesome. So, right now in Wildly Alive Mastery, we are focused on this pillar. We're focused on the movement pillar in our Unstoppable class. And if you'd like to join us and jump in, you can jump in for $111 and get the next 30 days in the container, really trying it out, experiencing the mentors, maybe experiencing Nicki and some of these philosophies around movement. You just have to go to wildlyalive.com/111 and you can learn all about it over there. We would absolutely love to have you. So thank you so much, Nicki, for coming on. This was a pleasure. And
it was really fun. I do want to say one more thing.
okay.
Unstoppable last year became my phrase for the year because of this class. And so I definitely would encourage someone, if they're on the fence, to jump in, because it's having that unstoppable phrase for my year has been so powerful. And it was
Wow.
because of this. Yeah.
I didn't know that. And it was quite a speedy year for you.
Oh, it's been, yes, a great
Yeah.
year.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, Nicki.
Thank you for having me.
So good, so good. If you enjoyed this, I would love for you to share it or hit a button somewhere around this video or audio, because that helps kind of boost the algorithm and spread the Wildly Alive message. And if you want to check out the next and final episode for this month of January, focusing on a movement pillar, then check out Elise. She's going to share with you some of her best tips on how to be somebody who is unstoppable, who moves their body for the rest of their life. These tools that she gives you are so good. If you are not listening to this on a podcast app, then open that favorite app up and search Wildly Alive or Same Team and have a listen to Elise.